guys? Welcome back. You know what this is? It's the Esports Masters podcast. Welcoming back not only myself, of course, we're going to have a good time, but also Twist over here off to the side. Welcome.
Hello. Glad to be back here.
All right, so today we're going to be having a little bit more of a good time chatting about some key topics that maybe not a lot of people want to talk about or anything within the industry that is esports. More specifically today, we're going to be going over a bit about Critical Ops and the new beta. So the new beta that has come out does have some support for mouse, keyboard, and controller. So that's a fun thing. Now, granted, I'm going to start off this with saying that I have been a huge supporter of that and pushing for it. So for me, I think that's great, and I think that opens up a lot more variety. But of course, Twist, what's your opinions on that?
I mean, it's cool. Again, I don't see the bad in this, especially if like tournaments and all of that are still on mobile phones, mobile phone only, as in fingers only. I think it makes sense. Why not allow it? Allow to play on everything. Allow to like connect your, I don't know, your Wii, and then play with like motion sensors, whatever. It's like more variety. I don't see the bad in that. The only thing I am kind of interested in is like how they will, do things in terms of like ranked gameplay, for example, right? Like I don't really want to play against people who are mouse on keyboard, but then if they do like mouse and keyboard exclusive, then it's like, well, it's probably going to be huge waiting times because I think the majority will still play on phones. So I think there are like some like minor issues that we'll see how they pan out, and hopefully they're thought about or at least fixed if they become problems. But otherwise, I think this is a great update. I think this will just draw more people in. I don't think it should make people leave.
Yeah, I think it'll be great as well. One of the biggest things is just having the ability. So, say if you're traveling, you go on a trip or whatever you want to do, you have the option. You can either play just touch if you can, if that's something that you were blessed with the ability or trained how to do. That's a thing. Uh, I am not. So for me, if I'm about to go out of town, and I think this would be great if I could just drop a mouse in the bag, drop a small keyboard, and be able to take iPad or even a phone with me and to be able to just plug it up at the hotel, either or a portable monitor, plug it in, and just still be able to play. Um, Now this is just kind of thinking ahead as far as you have gaming laptops. Some of them can be big and bulky. Some of them, you know, yeah, just like Reaper said in the chat, Steam Decks are options that you still play stuff on the go. But nothing beats how small an iPad is, how slim it is, and really just kind of whatever it may be. It gives the opportunity to take an iPad, drop it in your bag, and then just be able to basically just plug and play. One feature that I do want to note, say like Android, you have things like Samsung Dex mode. You have a full desktop experience. I plan on fully testing out that full capabilities as I see what I could break with that because you have the dynamic size. Will it size properly to a screen if you export it out with desktop mode and all that stuff. But the point is, you can just put a mouse and a keyboard and whatever your device is, and just go about your day.
Yeah. I think I'm looking at the site on on this update. They kind of announced it before like they even released the beta update, and there's a lot of fun stuff here. There's a lot of fun stuff here. I mean, first of all, it turns out there's no aim assist for keyboard and mouse, and then also there is increased aim assist for controller. I think that kind of makes sense, right? Like even on games like I don't know Fortnite, you would see that controllers get aim assist and keyboard and mouse usually doesn't. So I think that's good. And then one thing that for me at least is a little bit like annoying maybe is the fact that you need to have like the dongle, and like obviously it costs like $2, but it's like if you want to try this out, you can't just like take your keyboard and your mouse that you have at home and like immediately boom you can play. No, you have to have like a somewhat not really a hard to do, but just like a tedious setup to do to like actually plug them in and have like the right cables and all of that. So yeah, the only thing that I would complain about is that, but again, I don't see like a better way to do it. Perhaps like a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse pad, but I don't even know if you can do it. But yeah, otherwise it looks pretty good. Again, my only concern is like how it will play out in terms of who plays against who, and who can do what. Because I would hate to see that there's like keyboard and mouse lobbies are together with like normal touchscreen lobbies, but then how many players will play on controller, right? So then like if they get divided, then it's like nobody will even have a chance to find a match, let's say for ranked on controller. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But ultimately, I think it's just like a good thing to introduce, and then from there they can take it and then upgrade it.
Something that I've seen work really nicely on some other games is where, by default you play with everything, and that's your, I guess you can say, default scale for your points, right? That you would earn. You turn stuff off. You can turn off mouse and keyboard, or you can turn off controller, but you lose a little bit of extra points. Now, technically, you would say that would go back to regular amount of points if you just turn it off. Say you get 100 points a kill. But if you have everything turned on, you're willing to play with everybody else, then you would have something of the lines of, hey, once you're in, you get 125 and, or 150. And so you get a little bit extra more. You're rewarded for playing with others. Ranked, again, yeah, I think it'll be a little interesting with that and how that'll do. And even to when, talking about even tournament, do you ban it? Do you allow it? And depending on the game, say like PUBG Mobile, when they do a big tournament, they actually don't even allow iPads. It has to be a phone. Um, and so even to that point, they don't allow certain things. And so once that's being done, what do you constitute as, a mobile device or whatever's being done, or to even, what when and what is allowed is really just kind of that hot topic of when do you let things be, open all the way and just whoever's good on whatever thing can play, or do you start limiting those things?
I always thought that was weird, like about the PUBG thing that they didn't allow iPads. Like I don't see why. I don't see, because it's the same input method. It's just like a bigger screen. So
Yeah.
then we can open up discussion what constitutes as iPad, because like, or a tablet, right? Because there's like phones that are really really big nowadays. Is an iPad Mini, like I guess the SIM card maybe is the one thing to look for. But yeah, it's just weird for me. I think they should allow iPads. Obviously everyone will play on an iPad then, but I don't know, playing on a phone is just like, I have critical apps on my phone now, and I sometimes like go on it and try to play it. It's just so much hard. Obviously, like I'm adjusted to playing on an iPad, but like, I don't know. There's just something wrong for me about like holding a device like this and then just like this, just like try harding. Just it's just very hard. iPad is
Because you
so much
can't see
easier for me.
anything. It's so small, and see that's where I'm curious how if there's going to be support. This is where testing from my side will have to come into play with like Samsung Dex. In general, when you do that, you can put it on any screen, 16:9, whatever the screen resolution is, an aspect ratio, and then you can just full screen an app. Now, some apps will dynamically adjust, some will not. And so I know, at least in the early stages of the beta on iPad, when they had the external display come out, Critical Ops did not dynamically adjust. So it's basically the same square of the iPad, but just on a bigger screen. Will that work on Android? Because that's usually a lot of stuff that's typically built into it for the dynamicness of the screen. So I'll figure that out here soon. But the point is, if it does, will Android have a bit of an advantage if it can dynamically change versus the iPad, where it may not dynamically change because it's such a new feature? Is that even an option for the game? And then it comes into about of it's a can of worms to open, because it's like, do you allow mouse and keyboard? Well, how do you know they're not playing on a 32-inch widescreen display and they're being able to see everything, where people are playing on a phone?
Yeah, I think this is like, it is going to be like the dark ages for now, for the first month or two. But I mean, it makes sense, right? But there
Yeah.
definitely be a lot of exploits, a lot of different things that people will find how to literally just like break the game and become the suddenly overnight become the best player ever. But yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the process. Probably they're gonna, hopefully they're gonna sort it out. But yeah, at first it might be a bit annoying. I think even if they do separated lobbies, which I think they will for like ranked, people will still find a way how to compete against like touchscreen players with a mouse and keyboard. Like there will be like ways how that happens, and that'll probably be annoying. But I mean, it is with this. I'm sure they'll figure it out eventually.
So, in all fairness, there is a thing that you can get. There are Bluetooth modules, or they're called battle dogs.
I
I
can
have one
see the
actually.
smug. I can see the smug look on your face.
I have a battle dog behind me that I can also test that theory out.
Uh
That
huh.
has an app that does on-screen touch. That does convert two USB devices, so controller, mouse, keyboard, to virtual inputs. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, are mostly undetectable when it comes to that. you know, not saying
But
that I can
you
confirm
wouldn't
that.
do that, right? You
No, no,
wouldn't do
definitely
that
no.
because you're a nice person. So
No,
yeah.
no. Definitely
Uh-huh.
for, research and development purposes, definitely something to maybe figure out. There are ways around to do things, and, you know, even to like say, they even have modules for less recoil, things like that. This is where the can of worms, this is where the anti-cheat people need to really keep up, because um I can't remember the name of the product. I'll have to find it, drop it in the just kind of the name of the description or whatever. But it kind of ran rampant for a long time, and still kind of does. Like Call of Duty is now a bannable offense for using it. I can't remember what it's called. It basically looks like an Alienware logo that's on it, but it's not Alienware. Cronus, Cronus, that's what it's called. So Cronus is a little hub, and you can assist yourself in reducing recoil. And so you basically, whenever you pull X button, it will move the axis down a set number. So virtually removing recoil. And so that's another thing to where that's used for controllers, and then typically that's an in between a computer. And so there's a huge problem on Halo with it. There was a huge problem on COD with that. There were a bunch of streamers that got kind of caught with that. And again, it's, is that hacking when it's just also assisting. It's not hacking the game, but it is adjusting real signals that are in between. And so, again, there's a lot of things that maybe not a lot of people will be doing or knowing or anything like that. Not everybody's going to watch this. Not everybody knows about the products. Not everybody knows about these things. So the general public, I think, will be a good thing to have. All these different input methods to play the game, because I would love to just be able to slide an iPad in my bag because it's so thin and just go about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think like again, we'll see how kind of this pans out. But I think ultimately, like, there's always exploits. People always find exploits. But well, let's hope. Let's hope this time it's not that bad. That also makes sense. I don't know if you saw it, but when we were casting for Pro League last time, I think like 3 weeks ago, maybe they had this new overlay, right?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. And
Yes.
there was this weird thing where it showed that like everyone is on mobile, like there was that like mobile icon or whatever next to everyone's
Yeah.
names, and
The
at least
touch.
yeah, and at least we in the call were like, well, this doesn't make sense. Like, who isn't on mobile here? Like, what are they talking about? But if they had this overlay, I think they changed it back though. Like, I remember in Pro League finals, at least, like it, I think was reverted back. But that kind of makes me think that the person who made the overlay was told to make an option to show that it's on touchscreen, which could mean that there could also be like keyboard and mouse players on keyboard and mouse like tournaments coming up sometime soon, which could be pretty interesting, pretty fun to see.
Well, and that Critical Ops used to be on PC a long, long time ago, and then it converted to mobile. Um, so it kind of be going back from whence it came, which would be fun. But overall, I think that this is going to be a fun piece to where if they allow the dynamicness, what at that point we're blurring the lines of PC to mobile. PC, you have a screen, you have a big box or whatever, but some of these Apple products and other mobile devices are getting super powerful with low power needs. And Apple just, they've got that bare metal that they want to where you can bring like legitimate PC games, run it and convert it, with bare metal and bring it to an iPad because of how much graphics processing power are in these M1 chips and stuff. You know, what do you do as far as as we add more of these things, we blur those lines with bare metal. The devices now have external output, say an iPad to a PC monitor. at some point we may be seeing PC setups where you have dual screens and then just an iPad with a dongle, and then everything is just there because you have extra windows you can pull over. You can put your game over here. You can then you have your input methods, and it's just all a part of the ecosystem. And then maybe you can just grab an MacBook and do all the same because MacBook and iPad OS is starting to kind of blur the lines as they're using the same processors almost.
Yeah, one thing that I don't really understand is like why they like if I was told that like keyboard and mouse is now added, right? Like the thing that I would expect is that there would just be like, well, you can play with keyboard and mouse on your PC. Like I don't really get. I guess because it's easier to just like add it on kind of mobile rather than like making a whole new game on PC that you can download and play. But for me, it would make way more sense if they just like return with PC version like it was back in the day, which I think it was on Facebook. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I think it was like you could
Yeah, I
play
heard
it
that.
or get it on. Yeah, there was something about it being on Facebook pretty much, which is always great. But yeah, like that would make more sense for me if it was just like available on PC rather than on tablet because like I'm thinking about especially like on phone like how does okay let's say I have my this is my phone, right? Like let's say I have my dongle here and then I have my mouse and then I have my keyboard whatever, but like the screen is still so small and like normally again when you play like this pretty much or like this, right? Because you need to see shit. So like now that you have mouse and keyboard you need like a stand, you need to put it like somewhere like this close like it's just I'm kind of trying to figure out the setup in terms of like how it would actually work to where you can see players and you can also use the mouse and keyboard because obviously you have to sit at the desk and have a mouse pad to have like the mouse and keyboard, but then like where do you put your it's just like a lot of questions that come to my mind. And for me it's and also you need a dongle and etc. So like for me it would just make more sense if it came out on PC back like again, rather than you know this being a whole like you need the dongle and then you need to figure out how to look at like a 7-inch screen like as it would be a PC screen. I don't know, there's just like a lot of questions like that in my head for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. Why not just have that? But also, I think it comes down to developmental cost. Depending
Yeah.
on the team, because I mean, the fact that they're building an Apple's development kit is a little different. I think if you did, if I remember right, through development, Apple does allow some developmental stuff that crosses over. So if you were working or building anything for Apple, building it for an iPad, iPhone, or even now the iMacs or the MacBook Pros or anything like that that's running, say, the M1s, should be a lot easier to convert everything over because it's Apple's ecosystem. Now that's Apple stuff, but you don't exactly say, ooh, Critical Ops, Mac exclusive. It's not really a thing that when it comes to PC games is having a Mac exclusive. So even though they have, say, the client, which is a PC application, you does could that technically like it still exist? I mean, it's there, but having developers on standby for that. But then and I've seen cross-platform for PC and mobile. And, you see that's a like Genshin Impact. You can play on your PC, you can play on your mobile phone, and everything crosses over. And Warzone Mobile is planning on doing something similar to that whenever that decides to finally become a thing. But it just comes down to a lot of I assume that one was money of why it wasn't coming to PC. And technically, it's not terrible to just have a stand and have one dongle. I mean, really, the biggest thing is Apple's all about dongles. Yeah, when uh previous work, I had a MacBook Pro. I had to, luckily, at one of my Amazon bin stores, I found a huge $120 adapter that had dual HDMI out, SD cards, multiple USBs, everything that you could possibly imagine. Because there's just 4 USB-C ports. You have to use a dongle for virtually any and all output. And so basically, Apple's idea to me and where this can go is just like, hey, here's your one device, whether if it's a MacBook or your iPad, you could just sit down and plug in the one cable, and now you have multiple screens to do all the things. And I think Critical Ops is kind of going along with that, at least in the Apple sense. Android has a lot of options over Apple, but we all know that Apple plays Critical Ops a bit better, or at least more consistently.
Yeah, that has kind of always interested me. Where is the majority of the player base for Critical Ops, like Apple or iOS? Because obviously, if you just look at pro play, like it's going to be iOS, right? Like everyone is. I don't think anyone is playing on an Android tablet in like Pro League finals. I think it's just iPad. And again, it's simply because of that stable FPS. Because even though some like Android devices now are just as capable, if not like way more capable than an Apple device, for some reason like this has always been the case. Like Critical Ops just runs smoothly on an iOS device. It like doesn't stutter, it doesn't drop frames. And for Android it's kind of the opposite. Like it can run the game very well, but like sometimes it'll just drop like randomly, FPS wise. So yeah, for pro play for sure. It's iPad, it's iPhone, whatever. But I think like just majority of people have Androids rather than iPhones. Maybe that's not true in the US, but at least in Europe, from what I know, the majority of people, I'd say like 60 to 70% of people have Androids, especially if we remember that Critical Ops is kind of you know having a large player base that's a younger audience. I think you can afford an Android most of the time. It's like the cheapest ones come at probably like $50 that could run Critical Ops. For iPhones, the price point is higher. So I would guess for the casual community, it's more like Android. But yeah, for pro, definitely iOS.
Exactly. So, it's iOS does run nice, it does run smooth, but the fact that iOS is finally coming up to Android with all the extra outputs and things that can be done, especially with USB C. Now, granted, there's a whole lot of other issues with USB C for the iPhone 15 that's been coming out. Things kind of setting on fire and being fragile, and but the point is USB C, regardless of how Apple's doing it, can do a lot of outputs and inputs out of it, and so that really kind of helps that out for the most part. But I think that as we move along, this is definitely going to be um now, now it's going to be a long road to finding the balance between everything. And now, personally, I think controller is going to be the worst, just to me. Now, if you're a console player, you play PS5. I see you, Brian, there in the chat. You talked about PS5. Asked if I have one. I do not, but say a PS5 controller. I I I used to be a controller player. I did Xbox 360 for years. I got real nasty flicks and stuff like that with having high sensitivity while using the aim assist to my advantage because as you fly past and it goes whoop, and stops for a second, to pull the trigger. So I use that to my advantage, exploited it all get out. But after going to mouse and keyboard and being able to see two sides of the world at the time, and now the third side being touch, controller's my worst. Now, if you're a really good controller player, you're on PS5, Xbox One, and you could just pick it up and go. It's going to be different because of the style of gameplay. This isn't COD. This isn't Halo. It's not Rainbow Six. It's more akin to the sister side of CS:GO or CS2, and that's not exactly controller game. I feel like you can if you had something called Controller Companion. It's an app on Steam that you can map mouse and keyboard functions to a controller. I used that when I first started mouse and keyboard. I sucked at it, so I used a controller companion to help myself out while in between, to where I can still feel like I'm good and I can play PC games without being trash.
Well, interestingly enough, CS:GO, which is kind of the game before CS2, is like it's pretty much the same game. CS2 is just on Source 2 with better graphics. But CS:GO was originally a game meant for consoles, so that's why, like for example, when you bought things like the buy wheel was like round, so you can kind of use your controller a bit better. I've tried playing CS:GO on a controller. Same with CS2. It actually has like like a native. You just pick up the controller and it's already like if you turn it on, you can play. You don't need any companion apps. But it is very hard. As you said, like maybe COD is better on controller because it's very fast paced and you don't have like hold millimeter angles. But as Critical Ops is just CS:GO on mobile, it's pretty hard to kind of play the same way that you would COD because the gameplay is way slower. You need to hold like very tight angles, like accurate flicks matter a lot, and it's just hard to do It's just hard to do on controller. Now it is fun though. It is fun to just like kind of go at it with a controller. But yeah, I don't think like many people are going to use the controller function for critical ops.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to find out how many of you guys out there who may want to do that or try it out, even to see how it goes. I don't think that there should be really any penalties for the controller people versus touch. Now that might suck for your team because they'll be like, oh, we got a controller guy on our team and he's going to be terrible. That is definitely a potential option. People may hate that, but I think your biggest contenders will be rolling around will be mouse and keyboard and touch. Uh, Technically, and it all depends on how they handle everything. Certain mouses have refresh rates on their optical sensors. I talked about this a little bit before, but like, we have some of those players that run gyro, right? There's very few of them that do run gyro, and how the iPad's refresh rate is at a certain point for touch, right? How many times per second it checks for touch input and accuracy. But then you add another, I forgot the specs at this point, but you add, like, say, another 120 hertz on top of that per second because the gyro is also doing its own refresh. And so technically, you're getting more refreshes, more checks, and you can be a little bit more pinpoint accurate and have, in the sense of, say, moving your finger, but then also the gyro is also going. And so there's more input coming in, technically, as it works together. So now, how that would look in like dev environment, like seeing what's popping in and out, I don't know. I don't have like the full tech specs of it. Is it working in tandem on top of the touch refresh rate, sampling rate? I don't know. I don't have that kind of technology to test all that goodies. But yeah, having the mouse and keyboard personally, I think will be a fun experience. That'll allow me, who's bad with touch, to join in, and I think will be a good time. I still think that there should be a balance as far as like earnings or allowing people to turn things off. I think definitely having it on by default would help for the wait times, and then if people just don't want to play, that they also have the option to turn off each option. Where if they're like, okay, I'm fine with controller, they're terrible, I'll take their money. But I don't want to play against mouse and keyboard, or vice versa. Like, oh, the controller players are terrible, I don't ever want them on my team, and they just turn it off. Those pro players, I don't think will hinder the wait times because most of those guys, especially in ranked, like you were more specifically concerned about, I don't think those controller players will be getting up near that high level of ranking. Some might, but I don't think they will, and so I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue when it comes to that.
Yeah, no, me neither. I think like mouse and keyboard will be king in this new edition. Many people will probably try to play it. I want to kind of see how it goes in terms of like I want to try it out. I think you, Mr. Like yesterday we talked, you said you applied for the Android beta. For like
Yes.
the iOS beta. I have to kind of do more stuff to get it, but whatever. When it comes out officially, I'll try it out. I'll see what's possible with it. I kind of want to see how, like, if there's any input lag, things like that. And also it's weird for me to imagine playing critical ops on a mouse and keyboard just because like how used I am to just using my fingers. So I want to see if like it's a smooth like transition over, or if it's just like it doesn't it feels off. So yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, well, stay tuned for that, at least on the Android side. Once I gain access myself, I'll be running some rigorous tests with multiple mouses, keyboards, monitors. I'll be trying a portable monitor. I'll be trying a ultra wide monitor to see what that looks like. FOV type stuff. What can I see? Can I just crank the FOV and throw it on a wide screen and it be full screen, or maybe it won't dynamically adjust at all. We'll find that out soon once I figure out the beta side. Make sure that's the functionality, and I can get all those things set up. But guys, I think we're gonna go ahead and kill it here. We've gone over the mouse and keyboard, how we think it's going to run. What should be done with it. As far as being able to at least turn off settings. You need to be able to turn off where if people don't want to play with people, it's an option. But I still think it should be on by default, just for the keeping it into the play where people aren't having these horrendous wait times. Where, say, like if you play on COD Mobile or PUBG Mobile on your PC with an emulator, sometimes, like mainly PUBG, your wait times are like 5 minutes spending all the time of day. And so it's not fun. So I think that should be great. Tournaments, that's gonna be up to the hoster and what they want to do. I think it'd be really fun to see just a collab of like, here's some touch, here's like one controller guide, here's some mouse and keyboards. I think that'd be awesome to see one big melting pot. Twist, what's your final thoughts?
Um, I love this update. I think it's great that they're putting these things in. I'm always kind of for trying out stuff, and if it doesn't work, remove it. But like try it out, and there's a chance it will be like the greatest thing ever, rather than just like being too like risk averse and then doing nothing and in fear of, oh no, we might f everything up. And yeah, so I think it's great. I hope they come out with like more kind of revolutionary updates. Updates that are not just, oh, we added smokes that are 0.5% bigger, like kind of more big updates. Yeah, hopefully it works out for mouse and keyboard. Hopefully we see some tourneys with them as well. Hopefully it actually gets added as a PC game, rather than having to like figure out a way how to break your neck to look at a very small screen while using a mouse and keyboard. But overall, very good critical ops. I like update.
Yep, I agree. I think that'll be the fun thing, doing a phone. Maybe not. I definitely think that rolling with an adapter would be better. Have an adapter, have a dongle, use another screen if you can, especially on the smaller devices. iPad, I think, would be somewhat okay because, some laptop screens, for gaming are, 15 inches. And so a 12-inch iPad is not too far away from that. So I think that could be doable. But yeah, so guys, it's been great. We've been your masters of esports here today. We hopefully will have some more folks. Jesse might be back next time. Make sure to hit your like, subscribe, be a part of it. You've also have the other tech channel as well. That'll be in the description. If you guys want to see some tech reviews coming from me for some other products, feel free to go over there. And of course, Twists, YouTube channel. If you didn't know who this random guy is over here, looking like Dr. Disrespect, coming up in here. So, go over and check him out. He's you just put Twist 2OP, and I'm sure something of his will come up. He's got definitely a little bit SEO better than I do. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been a blast. And until next time, we will see you guys here later.
Later.